going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. We're going to do a little bit of a Vancouver Pro preview in this video. So now we're 3 days out from the show. It is a Sunday show, which I actually think is nice that we've had so many Sunday shows in a row. I kind of prefer it to Saturday night shows. Because as much as I enjoy watching and covering these shows, whenever there's a Saturday night show, it's like I got to basically do nothing that weekend. My Saturday is not free. And then I typically won't do anything on a Friday night if the show is Saturday, because then I know I've got to get up early the next day on Saturday to watch the prejudging, and then Saturday night for the finals. So I actually kind of really enjoy these Sunday night shows. But for those of you guys wondering, it is on Sunday. That's why it's 3 days out. So we're going to start here with John Jewett, because he posted the most recent update literally like 15 minutes ago. He posted this. And John looks incredible. If we're just talking about conditioning alone, I would say John and Stanimal are the two guys that have impressed me the most in terms of how their conditioning looks in these updates, and maybe throw Tim Budeshiem in that mix. But John just really seems like, just even by the day, he gets noticeably drier in his updates. It's really pretty impressive. And as far as a complete physique that's really well filled out, pretty proportional, John really has all the tools to win this show. And I mentioned in my previous video that Beef Stew is kind of the guy that I would like to see win this show. But really, the more updates that I see from John, I'm leaning towards him as maybe the realistic favorite, because you got to think about the fact that at the Toronto show, John was only beaten by Akeem and Quentin. You've got some of the same guys here. Robin Strand is also doing this show. Tim Budeshiem's also doing this show. But the two guys that beat him in Toronto are not here. Granted, you've got some guys that weren't in Toronto, Beef Stew being one of them. But if these Instagram updates are any indicator of which guy is really bringing it, John seems to really be the guy bringing it. And we did also get a recent update from Stu today. So this is the first recent update that we've had since that guest posing at the Branch Warren Classic, which would have been like 2 weeks out. And Stu looks great here. But when you look at John's update, and I guess it's not a directly fair comparison to Stu, because John's update's a video, Stu's is a picture, and John's lighting is much more conducive to showing off some of that detail. But I feel like John looks significantly more detailed in his update than Stu looks in this one. Not to say that Stu looks bad. I love Stu, I love his physique, and I would like to see him win this show. If not this show, then Chicago, because I really want to see him on the Olympia stage. But like I said with John, if we're really talking about who's really bringing the conditioning and who's showing the most detail right now just based on these Instagram updates, you kind of got to give it to John. But like I talked about last time I mentioned Stu, I feel like he is really one of the biggest guys in this lineup, like muscularity-wise. He's a big dude. And like I said, seeing him compete recently, much bigger than expected. And I think probably much bigger than John. Like I said, John comes from 212. But I wanted to start out the video with the recent updates from John and Stu, because I really am feeling like those are going to be the top two guys here. And that's a little bit more difficult to say with a show like this, because in a lineup like this, where there's not a lot of big names, there really aren't any crystal clear frontrunners. Like some of these shows where you've had a guy like William Bonac, that's been a top two placer at the Olympia, top two at the Olympia. He's one of those guys it's kind of safe to say he's going to be in the mix. Or a guy like Nathan Diasha, a guy that's won, like a dozen shows now. It's pretty safe to say he's going to be one of the front runners. In this lineup, a lot of the guys that we've talked about have never even won a show. Actually, I don't think anybody that we're talking about has won a show. I know that Tim hasn't. We know that Stu hasn't. John won a show in 2023, but I believe that was a 212 show. Stanimal's best placing as an open bodybuilder was at the Vancouver show last year, but it was second. And again, I don't think Hassan is doing it. I looked at Hassan's Instagram again today and checked. He did post a training, not a video, but training pictures, I guess, with Robin Strand, who's also competing in this show. But that's not super surprising because Hassan is from Canada. So I don't think that necessarily means he's competing just because he's in Canada with a guy doing the show. I looked at the Vancouver Pro, their official Instagram, and there's no mention of him even on their updated posts. So I don't think he's in, but if he was in, I think he would be the only guy in this lineup that has already won an open show. So that's why I say it's kind of hard to say there's going to be a clear front runner here when I don't think any of these guys have won a show before in open. Yeah, let's pull up the list again here. Slavoj Bednar, Tim Budeshiem, Yisheng Chen, Stanimal, John Jewett, Hassan Kaleda, Diego Nunez, and Jay Placencia. Then, of course, we know Beef Stew is also on that list. Yeah, I think whoever wins this show... Oh, and Robin Strand, there's a second page, okay. But yeah, I think whoever wins this show, this will be their first professional win as an open bodybuilder. So yeah, that is interesting. We do also have some updates from Tim Budeshiem from 4 days out that he just posted today. A front double bicep pose and a side chest. And honestly, like I said this before, he always looks good on Instagram. His pictures always look like he's going to be the guy that wins the show. He looks really good here. I think that... You know, it's really tough to say. I kind of explained this in the last video based on his most recent 2 placings and the fact that he just went up against John, and John beat him there too. And he even went up against one of these other guys, Robin Strand, and Robin beat him too. And Stu beat him as well in New York. And so it's tough to say because he looked just as good back then as he's looking now in these Instagram pictures. So it's tough to say that he's going to be one of the front runners here, but you can't really look at these updates and say he doesn't look impressive. The guy looks good. He looks big. He looks dense. He looks conditioned. I mean, there's really nothing negative to say about him in these updates. Frankly, I don't really understand why it doesn't translate to the stage the way that it really just doesn't seem to. But let me know what you guys think about Tim in the comments down below. Now, next up, we've got Stanimal. Stanimal posted these side-by-side comparisons. He doesn't specify in the caption here whether these were both from Vancouver prep, but I'm assuming they are. So last year's Vancouver prep, where again, he was second at the Vancouver Pro. And then this year's, so 2023 versus 2024. Make no mistake, I think that Stanimal looks great. I saw someone make a comment on one of these recent posts from Stanimal. I saw Nick's video where he said that you don't look bigger, and they were saying how much bigger they think he looks in the updates. Look, I think, like I said specifically, I was looking for more size in the legs. I still, even in this comparison, I don't really think his legs look that much bigger. That was one of the areas I wanted to see him bring up. And even in the upper body, honestly, I still don't see much difference, to be completely honest. That's not to say I don't think that he looks great, because I think he does. Like I said earlier in the video, I think conditioning-wise, him and John are far ahead of the pack. They look like the 2 most conditioned guys based on some of these updates. Then you see the update from the back. He's clearly even in better shape than he was in his prep last year. And he also doesn't specify at what point in his prep these were from. And people saying his back looks wider. I agree, but he's also hitting the pose differently. He's leaning back and opening his lats way more in the second picture. So yes, he does look wider in the 2024 picture, but is it really a ton of added size? Or is it just that he's hitting the pose a little bit differently? And again, it's not that I don't like Stanimal or I don't like his physique. He doesn't look that much bigger to me than last year, and that was kind of the knock on him, because he did go from men's physique to classic to open. So he's constantly kind of been in this process of putting on size. And coming from men's physique, I mean, it is a process to grow into an open bodybuilder. So I'm not saying he should have that size overnight. I understand that that's going to take time. You guys can let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I don't think he looks significantly bigger this year compared to last year. I do see improvements for sure, but significant size, I just don't see it. And again, particularly if you look at the legs, that's a big point that a lot of people said he needs to bring up. They don't look a whole lot bigger to me. So based on that group of guys and all these previews that we've seen so far at now 3 days out from the show, what are your guys' predictions for the Vancouver Pro? And I think, like I said with Stanimal, he was second last year, so you could make a strong argument for him being a top 2 guy again this year. Based on all these updates, my top 3, in no particular order, I'm thinking will include John, Stu, and Stanimal. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon, all that good stuff. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. Alright guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also check out my Instagram at NICKS&P, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel, and consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.